Yes. So tell me how your week went. How did you go with the exercises? It could be that they're anyway, I'll let you talk.
Thank you. Look, I haven't made a lot of progress with the exercises. I think even I'm really it just solidified how scared I am when it comes to mixing colors. So I feel like this was the right time for the course. I definitely noticed through the collection of paints that I have collected, a lot of them have been ones which are very obvious that I just haven't tried mixing with the primary colors, even the different tones of greens that I've collected. I'm like, I could just be making these. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's a great insight, isn't it? To know what the colors that more appeal to you are the ones you're sort of scared to go and actually try to mix.
yes. And
Yes.
I think a lot of them, I think, especially because I'm most inspired to be following on with the painting after doing the workshop weekend with you, that and Kate and Emily, was that I'm seeing everything in the garden and obviously doing a floral workshop painting weekend. That really made me want to kind of start looking at the colors and what I can do, what I can mix myself, because the block for me has been having to order things online because we don't have an art store here locally. So I think that is what has stopped me from painting, thinking that I don't have the colors. So that's why I'm excited to be doing this.
I know, and that is so true because you can be buying a yellow, a red, and a blue, but then you don't get the actual greens that you're after. And you're
Yes.
thinking it's your problem. I can't do it. I can't mix it. But it could be that you just need a different green and different yellow or a different blue or a different red, to mute it down or do things like that. So that's such a valid point. And I know that I'd be afraid to do that too. And I know when I started painting, I just bought everything. Like I
Yes.
bought such a picture of colors, and now I have a lot of colors because I just collected them through the years. But in the last 2 years, I've only been using about 8. So in this the color charts that I sent, one of them, the sort of the brights, pretty much. This is pretty much what I use most of the time. And
Yes.
only recently I started experimenting with some transparent colors like these ones, because in my stylized paintings, for example, I love to have really opaque colors. And we'll talk about all of this as well. And the transparent colors didn't seem that work. But in those paintings that I do on the boards, the transparent colors or translucent, they're very different. They work really beautifully. So it's experiencing as well with what you have. So are you doing acrylics or what are you doing at the moment?
Yes. So
Acrylic.
I'm just doing acrylics. That's what I had, so I thought I will just stick with those.
Yes.
But I definitely remember using oils at school when studying art. But I feel like I just want to get my head around the acrylics first, which is what I did on the weekend workshop that we did. I think that was a while ago now, but it feels like, yeah.
It does feel like a long time ago, doesn't it? It's like, was it in 2023 or?
Yeah.
And so with your colors, what do you have in the ways of what do you have?
So the ones that I used this week was a crimson, which wasn't kind of in the list of the three that you had. So I was like, oh, I think I do struggle with the warm and the cool tones of each.
Yes.
The yellow I had, it was called a primary yellow, but it is quite bright.
Yep.
Um,
It's
so
like
it
a
was,
lemon yellow or
yes, yeah, like a
yeah.
lemon yellow. And then it was is it the cyan blue?
Yes.
Um, yes, so
Oh,
that they were the three that I had to work with.
yes. And do you have any other reds and any other? So the colors,
Really?
don't worry about the names of the colors because it's so individual. I mean, I sent some that I like to work with, but that's me. And
Yeah.
you have those colors and you can mix so many colors with those. So, so do you have any, you said you don't have any other yellows or reds or blues, or do you?
No,
No.
no, they were only reds, which was interesting because I have so many different tones of greens. I have like the turquoisey blues, like the lighter blues,
Yes.
but I didn't have any other of the primary colors. So that's where I wanted to make sure I noted down some from the list, the examples that you had given,
Yeah.
so I can keep a lookout for those when.
Well, the other thing is you can still do another chart with the light blue that you have. So
Okay.
I'm going to turn
Yes.
this off. So, you know, even if it's even if it's mixed with white, just use it as a primary and do a color wheel with the red that you have and the yellow that you have and that other blue, and see what difference you get there. With the green, it won't work because it's already a mix of two colors. But if you have any other blues, or even if you have a green that is bluish, just
Yes.
have another go.
Have another go.
You never know. But also, what I wanted to say from those color charts is that it might give you an idea to say, oh, hold on, I really like this color, for example. I don't know. I really love this red here. And then you can see I use the quinacridone magenta, and maybe I mixed it with spectrum orange. And so when you go and buy something, you can see, well, I like how those two colors mix together. Or, well, that was probably a bad example because it was an orange with a red. But say if you mix a blue, one of the similar blues that you have, to a warmer red, then you can say, yeah, I really like those two. Maybe when you go and buy something, you just buy a small tube of those.
Yeah.
Um, when also we go into the next modules and we start talking about warm colors and cool colors, you can, when you go to say online, and you can look at Spectrum or Winsor and Newton and have a look at the color charts, because it will have every color listed. You might think, oh yeah, I quite like that primary and that particular red. And it may not be a cadmium red, but it could be another red that's sort of warmer, that then you can order when you or will look at when you order.
Yes.
So I love cadmium because it's really, really opaque and it's very bright, and it just gives me nice, vibrant oranges. But there are similar versions to a cadmium that it doesn't have to be that. Also, cadmium is quite expensive. But for example, I think it's Spectrum Red. Let me just have a look. There's a red in art Spectrum. Yeah, Spectrum Red. So this one is quite good, and it is quite warm. It doesn't really, trying to see what series it is. It's opaque as well. It must be series 1 and 2. I think because it's old, I can't see it. So the series as well is how expensive it is. So series 1 would be cheaper, like white. And then a series 4 and 5 or 6, that they're really expensive pigments. But this is a good one to buy. So if you don't want to buy cadmium, it's called Spectrum Red. And in the yellows, so the lemon yellow, the one you have, is a cool one. And then Spectrum Yellow, it's warmer than the one you have. So Spectrum and Art Spectrum are quite nice colors, and they don't break your bank. It's like, you know, the series 1. So both the other one may be series 1 too. So have a think of those. If you wanted a warm, do you have an ultramarine blue?
No, I didn't. That was the one that I thought I had and I didn't have.
And so what you have a cyan, like a cyan. So that would be sort of like a, yeah, that's probably a cooler. So when you say you're talking about mixing greens, what greens are your?
So probably anywhere between, that one was like a sap green. That's probably not going to come up.
Oh, so sap would be warmer, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So
okay.
a warmer green to like your olivey kind of greens.
Yes.
Probably a lot, I guess something that would be reflected in like a Mediterranean style gardens that goes
Yes.
nicely with your creams and
Yes.
um, yeah, so, and like things that probably go nicely with like a blush or a like a warmer pinky kind of apricot color.
And that's what you're after.
That's what I'm drawn to. So when I actually buy paints, I find that I'm buying, well, previously I've bought a lot of greens that I wouldn't have known how to mix myself,
Yes.
and probably haven't really, I guess they probably are warmer. So I would just like to know what it is that's drawing me to these colors.
Yeah, and that's a really that's so good to know. Like that now you can make either work with what you have. I'm wondering when because we will create these color charts, you'll create your own. You can grab
Yes.
all your paints and just do it yourself, and then you can start noticing, okay, when I mix this with this, I'm getting that. And no, I don't quite like that color. But because of the basis, I want to leave that sort of to the end because I want to go through all the modules and start to think we're mixing two colors at the moment, except for black. But when we start mixing more than two colors or warm and cool, and you have a red that is warm and you're mixing a cool blue, you'll have, even though there's no yellow as such, the red will have some yellow in it because
Yes.
it's warm and it's leaning to that. So it's gonna, when you mix it to your cool blue, it will create that sort of grayish, more sappy greens. Maybe not as much as if you had a warmer blue, but it will start leaning that way. So if you can, so I'm wondering if you can, by all means, start experimenting. If you mix
Yes.
the greens from the red, the yellow that you have and the blue that you have, and whether you can add little bits of the red, that will be still a more vibrant green, but have a range of color to show you where in that scale it might start to feel a little bit more like what you're after. You can add a little bit more yellow and see, okay, well, this is still too bright. Maybe if I add a bit more red and make it more orangey and make it still a bit warmer. Not quite the color that you want, but to see those differences. That's why I think if you can work on the color chart over the weekend and
Yes.
get a few wheels done, even with the colors that you have, is absolutely fine. And you can create some charts, like I said, with a different blue. And even if you don't do the color wheel because you don't have, do a few color wheels with the colors that you have, but you can start just grabbing a piece of paper and playing with those colors and seeing what shades you get. Next week, we're going to be doing things like saturation and tone and tint and different value. And that might start making a bit more sense because we will mix complementaries. I didn't really talk much about complementaries in this module. In fact, I barely just talked about it because I wanted to focus this week more on with what you have, what colors you're getting in your color wheel. And then next week, when we talk about the complementaries, you will start to see what happens when you mix your red with your with your green, say your sub green.
Yes.
You already have a sub green, so you probably have the color that you want. So work with that. Don't get too caught up, but you might think, oh, that sub green is not quite the color that I'm after. And you can start playing around with adding a bit more yellow, a bit more blue, and a bit more red, and see what you get. And adding white to it as well, because the white will take it to another level, and to see, oh no, hold on, if I add white, this is really grayish. So yeah, I think that we will definitely cover all of that. I think just work on the color wheels, work on the blacks as well. So mixing blacks from the colors that you have. If you do the blacks with the blue that you said that is really light, it may be a hard one. It won't probably be dark. It might be like a gray or a dark
Yeah,
gray.
it definitely has that grey green base. So I've tried a few times, and it's funny because I can make black when I'm not trying to make it, or can get those muddy colors when I'm not trying. And then when I was actually trying, I was like, oh, and so I was trying not to kind of use too much paint, because it was still going like a very deep bluey green, like, yeah.
So when you look at the like in the color charts that I did, and you start to see, oh, this one, for example, and you mix this cadmium red with the French ultramarine in white, you know, they're both warm, so they will come a little bit that sort of greenish gray. And that's what you're starting to notice. That's what I think my goal would be with all these exercises, is that you start to notice, when I mix this and this, I am getting I'm mixing it black, but I don't want to do that. So how can you then, knowing the theory or the rules as to why you're getting black, to not do it, or to do it when you want to?
Yes. And then what I'm really interested in is then how that color is influenced by the colors that are also placed with it.
Yes.
That's probably what I notice in the garden when I'm placing plants, is the interaction between the greys and the different tones of the greens or the blue greens. That's probably what has drawn me to this as well, is noticing how I naturally place things in the garden, and then actually finding the reasons why. So
Yes. Well, that's a massive insight. That's really good. You know what you're attracted to, but as well, you can think, oh, I'm doing this, and starting to think about these combinations that I find really pleasing to the eye.
yes,
Yeah, no, that's a really fair point. Well, I hope that as well, this helps you sort of start noticing those nuances of color, and just observe, and start to think a little bit, still with the play in mind, but some things to start sinking in. And
yes.
so when we get to the other modules where we start combining warms and cools, that's my favorite, by the way. Like,
Okay.
just made so much sense when I understood that. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, no wonder this is not coming the way I wanted.
Yes.
And these things start sinking in. So you start with the color chart, with the color wheel and the blacks, and you can see as well, in here, like, well, some blacks are really, they lean a lot to the purple or the really warm yellows, and then others are really cool. So yeah, I think that would be a really good thing to do if you can over the weekend. And
And when you come to organizing this, because I love you have everything so um it's placed out so well. I find that I kind of started and like a few of my pages have just turned into, it just looks like a palette, like there are colors everywhere. If that just gets you into the actual groove of mixing, can you have that kind of on the side? Because I think when I think about the template, it's almost like it's too clean and it's too
yeah,
perfect,
yeah,
and I want to have a few goes at mixing. So
absolutely, absolutely. And that's a fair point. Maybe I could put a comment there for the others that, I mean, the probably the color wheel has to
yeah,
have certain structure. The
yeah,
blacks, they can be like that just to give an idea, and then you can put it in a folder and you have a look, and it's exactly what you mix to get those colors. But absolutely, by all means, I mean, it's not should I do this or should I do that. Just go ahead and go wild and
yeah,
have your other pieces of paper. I mean, for me, my palette is just that. So
yes,
the same way that you do it on a piece of paper, I'm just trying here. It's like, oh, okay, I'm mixing this and I'm mixing that. While I'm doing the exercises for you guys, it's a really good way to do it. But at the same time, if I show you, I had it, it's probably somewhere else, but maybe for next chat, I'll bring my little notebook where I've collected all the colors that I want. And it's
yeah,
like, it's all over the shop as well. So yes, that's when you start to really learn, because you start with the color and then you think, oh, I'm going to add a little bit more white, a little bit more white, a little bit more white. What do I get? A little bit more black. And it doesn't have to be structured, but
yeah,
it's just as well getting loose with the brush and confident, because color can be like that and a little
yeah.
bit daunting.
And
So
have your kind of unique templates to as a reference or a
yes,
guide.
yeah,
Yeah,
keep all of those separate pieces of paper that you've been working on.
yes,
Keep them for your reference because they're invaluable, definitely. Then, and you can take notes and just say, oh, I mixed this and then I added a little bit more white and I actually loved this color, and put what colors did you mix to get to that.
mhm,
Let's see, let me have a very quick look since there's only two of us anyway. um no, I can't find it. I think it's hidden somewhere. This my CMS. I'll have it for next time. But anyway, it's just a little notebook that is where I just go and do that. So when I started my paintings and I was still trying to get my head around and say, oh, what color did I mix to get that? I would just put it down and put notes everywhere. This is this color mixed with this, and this is what I get.
yeah,
And obviously you can have, more. It's never exact. Like, you probably would be very unlikely to mix the very, very exact color when you use two colors at least.
mhm,
Well, yeah, to mix color you need to, but when you use, more than one color to, like, out of the tube, if you go out of the tube, you're going to get the same color every time. But when you add something to it, you don't know, is this 50% and did I add 50% of that? You just
yeah,
more or less get a color, and then
mhm,
you just try every variation, but it won't probably look exactly the same next time.
mhm.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
you know
And can you just explain? So on page 9,
yeah,
um, is and it probably is what you're explaining. If you've got like your yellow, your red, and whatever blue you're using, that variation. So under the cad yellow, you've got the black, and then you've obviously added just a little bit more white,
In
is
this
it?
one?
Oh, sorry, this one.
Oh, that one. Sorry. So which one are you talking about?
Oh, probably with any of them. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm just looking at the variation between the top
Oh,
and then the
yes.
underneath.
Yes. So this is as dark as I can get it. And what
Yes.
I've done, so this here, so is probably the most neutral mix that I could get with, so it doesn't really lean towards a particular color, so it doesn't really lean to blue or red or yellow. But this one, for example, I added more yellow in my mix, so it's a little bit more green, and when I add the gray, I can really see the difference. So it's still sort of like a black, but it's a greenish black because I added more yellow. Then this one is more red because I added a bit more red in that mix. And when you have a look when I add the white, then it does lean a bit more towards the reds. Then this one is more blue. And this one is probably as neutral as I could get it. And even in that, I would say that this one with the most red, when I add the white, this one looks more neutral, but then this one looks more neutral in the dark. So this one looks really red, whereas this one, I can't really pick one dominant color. Whereas in this one, the blue is dominant, the red is dominant, and the yellow is dominant. And then it's same in this one. So there's more yellow in this mix, a little bit more red in this mix, a little bit more blue, and this one here is as it's not consistent, but it's just less. There's not one color. Well, that's what I try to do, to get it as dark as you can without having more than one color particularly. You still would have to have probably a little bit more blue just to have that darkness, but you start adding little bits of the red and you think, oh, especially with this mix, you're going to get dark very soon. But if you add too much red, it's going to get brown. So add a little bit less red, start adding a little bit of the yellow to get that black. But you might think, oh, no, now it's gone to green. Okay, add a little bit more blue until you can get that mix sort of as balanced as you can.
Yes, okay.
And the same with all the others.
And so it really is the yellow that gets that deep, like the deeper, as you said, like if you add the more red, you're going brown.
Yeah, if you try to mix just the red and the blue, you'll get a lovely warm brown in these colors. In this one will be a cooler brown. But when you start, if you're unsure, add a little bit of white and you see how that mix is going. And you think, oh, no, this is really brown. Okay, so now I need to add maybe a little bit more blue and then just that yellow to fully neutralize all three colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have a favorite supplier? When getting your paints online?
I usually get them from either Senior Art in Melbourne or this is called the Sydney Art. Is it the Sydney Art Store? I mean, it depends. Sometimes I get brushes from different suppliers because I like different brushes, and I can't find them in one place. But yes, maybe I'll put a link. I can just add that and send through where I get my brushes and a few of the art stores, because as well, like I find Senior Art has usually better deals with paints. But then sometimes it's good to join into different suppliers because they might have a sale.
Mhm.
They have a sale on paint and think, oh, okay, they're 20% off. Yes, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and buy them through them. So yeah, I'll do that definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have anything else, or do you think we might?
Yes, no, I'm happy to go off and do more of that over the weekend. I
Yeah,
think even it really helps knowing that yellow at the end just to neutralize as
yeah,
well.
yeah. That's right. That's right. Oh,
Thank
that's
you
so
very
nice to see you. Thank you.
much.
Send me any
Thank
questions if you have on the like by email. It's all good, or if you want to do it through Facebook, then we can chat that
Oh,
way.
I actually don't have Facebook, so I'm sorry. That's why I hadn't joined.
Yeah, not everyone does, and I'm not great at Facebook, to be honest. But hold on, I'll stop recording.